Today, I'm going to share with you my #1 marriage saving tip for money. It has saved so many marriages from fighting over money, including mine. And here's the thing, the #1 cause for divorce is fighting over money, which is so preventable. So just stick with me in this video, and I'm going to teach you how to stop fighting over money. Hey everyone, this is Lauren Mack with Hacking the Rat Race, and I would love for you to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss any great content on money, investing, and savings. So let's get started. So when Matt and I got married, we had $41,000 in debt, and our combined income per year wasn't even $40,000. So we decided, okay, we need to get serious about our budget, and we need to get super serious about paying off our debt. And so we created a budget, and we mostly agreed on all the categories, but the part that we were constantly fighting over was spending, which I couldn't believe that, because you think that's the fun part of the budget, where you're supposed to, do fun things, go out, that's supposed to nurture your marriage, right? But we are constantly fighting over spending money. Why? Well, because we're two separate human beings, right? He was doing triathlon, sports, drinking beer, all these fun things, living life, right? And on the other hand, I wanted to save. I wanted to get out of debt. I even wanted to save our spending money. And again, there's nothing wrong with his approach or my approach, but as you can imagine, every time he spent money on any of his hobbies and fun things, I had resentment, and we were constantly arguing because I felt like that was one more penny or one more dollar that could be paying down our debt. Which honestly, either extreme isn't healthy and it's not good for your budget. I've worked with so many couples, and I literally see this happening all the time. So whenever I was going through this with Matt, I thought, what can we do about this? Like, what can I do to fix this? And I came up with this 2-step process that literally saved us from fighting all the time about the spending and our money to almost never fighting at all. So you're probably wondering what this is. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is a test. And the test is, do we both use it and do we both care about it? You're gonna go line through line on your budget and just kind of put this test to each of the items. So for example, Matt felt like beer should come out of the grocery budget. I mean, you do buy it at the grocery store. I, on the other hand, don't really drink, and when I do drink, it's probably not gonna be beer. So to me, I don't care about that, and I don't drink, so I don't necessarily think that should be in the grocery budget. However, maybe if I wanted to go get a $150 haircut, I mean, yes, haircut might be in your budget, but really is a $150 haircut necessary? Do you see? So maybe there are places in your budget where one person thinks something should be in there and the other shouldn't. And we're gonna get to that in a second. So all those items that you go through, write them out and put them, let's call it the parking lot. So just put them aside, and then we're gonna go to the next step. So the next step, once you've gone through all of the items and you've kind of separated out what's important to each person that may not be important to the other person, now you're gonna create your budget allowances. And this is what made such a big difference. This isn't allowance like when you're 5 and you do the dishes and you get money for each chore you do. This is a budget allowance, and this allowance has saved marriages. So what you're gonna do is each month out of your spending, you're gonna divide it up, and literally you're gonna take out cash and you're gonna give it to each person, and they can do whatever they want. There's no judging. For me, I hoarded it. I literally took my money, put it in an envelope, put it under the mattress. And every month I would bust out my envelope and I would be so excited because I was adding more money to it. And I would be like, Matt, look, I have $1,400 under my mattress. And he would just roll his eyes and be like, okay, I have $52, but I've been living life. And you know what? Neither one of us were wrong, and we were both happy. Now, here comes the next part of this. So this alone can save so many problems. But here's the next step, right? When you're deciding, well, what goes into this allowance amount? Like, what would be spent with this versus the regular budget? That is normally the next speed bump, right? Because you think, oh, well, like Matt, beer should be in the grocery budget. Maybe your spouse thinks, no, it shouldn't. So here we go, boom, another argument. We're fighting again. Okay, so we're gonna go back to that parking lot, right? And let's look at some things in there. And so if there are things that are super obvious, for example, like maybe you're into crafting and your husband's definitely not into the same crafts or crafting at all, then that would be something that would be split up into your allowance, right? So that would come out of your allowance, out of your spending money. However much you get every month, you can spend as much as you want on that. And say maybe your husband's into brewing his own beer, fixing cars, whatever his hobbies are, running triathlons, then those expenditures can come out of his allowance. So those are the easy things, the ones that are like super obvious. But there may be some other areas, such as beer in the grocery budget, that are a little gray. So let's look at the gray items. So I'll give you some examples of people that I've worked with and how they've handled this. For example, I worked with a couple and they had a very high income and they had a larger budget, but the husband wanted a really expensive car, like really expensive, and he really wanted it. So they looked at what is a reasonable car payment, right? Maybe what is both of their car payments? Let's just say it was $300. But he wanted this crazy car that was gonna cost $600 a month. Well, guess what? He can have it. But the other $300 is coming out of his allowance. It isn't coming out of the budget. I've also seen this with maybe where a spouse wanted like the NFL ticket, right? Which is cable, like most people have cable, but the NFL ticket maybe is way more expensive. So you can still have cable in your budget, but the NFL ticket amount over that would come out of that person's allowance. Same with crazy haircuts. Maybe a guy's haircut's $15 and a woman's haircut is $150. Okay, well maybe you settle on $15 haircuts in the budget. Well then the $135 more on the spouse's haircut would come out of their allowance. This isn't really, hopefully this doesn't create a place for arguing. The way I would look at it is if you both use it and there's a reasonable amount, then put that in the budget. And the amount over that the other, that one spouse wants or the other person wants, then put that into your allowance. For another example for Matt and I, he loved watching TV. And honestly, I didn't really care. And the truth is, when I start watching TV, I get sucked into it. So I try to avoid it at all costs because I can get sucked into almost anything on TV. So I didn't really want cable, and especially not 10,000 channels. However, Matt was more interested in that. So guess what? We had our cable, internet, and phone all together. So whatever the basic cable amount was with internet and phone, that came out of our budget, and the amount over that came out of his allowance. And he was fine with that. And the best thing about this is it really makes you start to prioritize what do you really want. Because you'll find whenever you're not really budgeting and you just have all this money, that you'll just spend it on all of your different whims. But whenever you start getting down to, okay, I have this much money, I can spend this cash on whatever I want, suddenly you start getting a little bit more particular about the things that you really want. Let's just recap one more time. The first thing you're gonna do is just apply all the different areas of your budget to the test. Do we both use it and/or do we both care about it? You're gonna find the items of contention, you're gonna put those in a parking lot. Then you're gonna look at your spending budget and you're going to see how much money you have there and you're going to divide it up into allowances. Each month, that money comes out in cash and each person can spend it on whatever they want. Then you're gonna go back to your parking lot items and you are going to see the gray area, like say cable or groceries or whatever it is. Then you're going to see what is actually included back into the budget and what of those amounts is going to be coming out of the allowance. Once you have that settled, it should make all those day-to-day little purchases so much easier. However, I would like to add one more tip to this. As far as your spending money is concerned, I would kind of make 3 buckets, right? One for each of your allowance and also one for like date nights and things that you do together. That way you're not also fighting over who paid for what, whose turn it is to pay, who paid more. You kind of just have a fun budget together and you can define what that looks like. And especially this is true if you have kids, right? If you have a family and you're doing family events together, I'm not talking about their extracurricular activities, but just like going to the zoo or going out to dinner so that that money isn't fought over who's spending it out of their allowance. So I want to hear from you in the comments below. Do you think this would help curb some of the fighting in your marriage around money, especially in regards to spending? If so, let me know below. I would also like to hear what areas of your budget are most troublesome and what areas do you argue over the most? For me, it was definitely spending, which honestly was totally shocking to me because I always thought that would be the easiest part of the budget. Thank you so much for watching this video. And again, I would love if you would like and subscribe so you don't miss any more content on money, savings, and investing. And also, if you have any questions or anything that you would like me to cover in these videos, please leave that in the comments below. Again, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.